Good morning, ladies and gents. No, I have not turned into some sort of retro Blofeld. Bonbon's decided to join me this morning. I don't know why. To be on the swap seats. Is that what it is? No? Here we go again. Kids and animals. Well, welcome to Sunday morning. It is my Moonraker book review. Again, Fleming's third novel. Really enjoyed it. It is certainly not a space adventure, that's for sure. There's no space program whatsoever. I'm going to swap my glasses so I can see what I'm doing. And yeah, kind of takes place basically in the UK, London centric and on the coast. And yeah, over the course of, it's sort of broken down into three parts. It's like Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, and then off for the weekend. But yeah, no space. Yeah, like I said, no space program, and it's 25 chapters, 302 pages. Sorry, and it just sort of starts off about his day, his general work day, like most people's who have a general work day. You know, it's office based. He has a salary. If he makes it to retirement age, he retires at the age of 45. I mean, how nice would that be? But then again, when you're risking your life every day, you'd want to retire early, wouldn't you? But interestingly enough, coming at it from the film's point of view, I only ever thought it was like Moneypenny, but it turns out that in the literary world of 007, he has, well, between him and a couple of fellow 00 agents, he has his secretary. So Moneypenny is just solely M's, as I've understood it and seen so far anyway. But Bond's secretary, I've got to pronounce this right now, I think it's Luella or Lilia Ponsonby. Yeah, really quite surprised at that. And the fact that she looks after, I don't know, kind of like the admin thing for three double O's, which is Bond himself, 008 and 0011. Have I got that right? Or was that a separate point? Not too sure now, because I've gone blank on that. But the reason I mentioned those three double O's is that in the 00 section in the novels, they're the only three that are actually licensed to kill, which I just assumed every 00 had that kind of built-in part of their job. Another bit I loved about his working environment, office environment, is the phone setup. So there's like three telephones, and the black telephone is for an outside line. The green telephone, excuse me, is for like internal office calls, and the red telephone, a bit like the bat phone, the red telephone is for M directly instead of Commissioner Gordon. But the red phone goes, Bond goes to see M, and it's all about an individual called Sir Hugo Drax, who in the book is a war hero, and he basically had a rags to riches story, from nothing to a multimillionaire within 5 years. Kind of reminds me of the Gustav Graves character in Die Another Day. And he's basically created this weapon system, this missile, which is called the Moonraker. But at the club Blades, the owner of Blades had contacted M, whose dry wit is as excellent as always, and M invites Bond to go to Blades, which is where Sir Hugo Drax goes to sort of blow off steam or whatever. But the owner suspects him of cheating, and he kind of bends M's ear to see what he could do, some advice. So there's like, once that meeting's took place, Bond commutes home back to his house. There's mentions in his briefing with them of like the previous missions, because like I've said, like the movies, they kind of follow on from each other. But on the evening when Bond goes to Blades with them, they both take part in some of the gaming tables. You've got Chemin de Fer, Baccarat, Roulette. But it's just nice reading that chapter because they're having a conversation and they share a meal together. Because it's like in, I think it's from Russia with Love, as in the movie. There's that bit where Miss Moneypenny's earwigging the conversation in M's office and about the lector, and Bond's about to reveal something about M and possibly a female, where M suddenly switches off the machine. So M might be a bit of a rogue as well. But Drax in this, he's disfigured, he's got a bloodshot eye. I'm assuming the disfigurement was from like his time during the war, because he was a bit of a war hero, like I said before. But the whole bloodshot weeping eye kind of reminds me again in the movies of Mads Mikkelsen's The Chiffre in Casino Royale. But Bond observes Drax playing, and he's kind of clocked how it is that Drax seems to be cheating under the noses of the club. So once he's worked that out, he decides to have a little game with Sir Hugo, and as you do, but this is at bridge, by the way, and Drax loses a considerable amount of money because he kept upping the stakes to try and embarrass and humiliate Bond, I think, which spectacularly backfires. And he leans forward when he gives Bond his winning, and a bit like Kamal Khan in Octopussy, he says, "Spend your winnings quickly, Mr. Bond." And that's the voice and the pace I've got in my head. But yeah, Drax, red-headed, disfigured, seems to be a bit of a theme that red hair is synonymous with villains in the book so far. So that was sort of Monday. I've lost track of where Thursday, Friday starts, but I'm sure it will come back to me as I go. So moving into Tuesday and Wednesday's part of the book, Bond goes down to Drax's estate on the coast, where he's introduced to a lady from Special Branch by the name of Gala Brand, and we've all heard that name mentioned before. They obviously borrowed the surname for Helga Brand in You've Only Lived Twice, but she was planted into Drax's organisation, and that's when, so obviously Emmerd briefed this, and it's quite nice because it's like it's a bit like the relationship between Bond and Felix in the movies. In the book, the book so far, although he can be a bit short, in this adventure there's a bit of a buddy type feel between Bond and M whilst investigating Drax. Sorry, he hasn't gone to the estate yet, I do apologise. He takes a visit and turning into Sean Connery. He takes a visit to Special Branch to learn a bit more, and between MI5. And I think, well, moving forward with the new movie, that would be interesting to see if it's, if that could be, exploited more. But that's a whole different thing. But that would be interesting to see on screen. And he learns that Gala Brand's a jiu-jitsu expert, so she can clearly hold her own, so to speak. And when she does meet Bond, he gets a very cold reception, no interest in him whatsoever. But I'm sure as the book goes on, things will change. But at this point, when he does get there, and he's then taken on a tour by Gala Brand, and then part of that tour, it goes into the missile base silo. And the one thing of many, Bond notices all the scientists there have got basically shaved heads or buzz cuts, and very kind of extravagant moustaches. So he kind of sort of takes it all on board. Tries to break the ice with Gala Brand, but at this point in time, nothing's doing. So he goes back to his quarters, and I get echoes of Doctor No, the movie Doctor No, because then he employs his good old-fashioned spycraft of, like, you know, in his room. For some reason there's like filing cabinets and stuff, and he tries opening the filing cabinet. He dusts for prints on a map, and also there's dossiers which have been left for him to aid his investigation, because Sir Hugo has pointed the finger at somebody within his organisation to try and keep his kind of powder dry, for want of a better term. Anyway, Bond learns Brand's analysis on the case, but she just sees it as interference. The person that Drax suggests is the inside man is a guy called Krebs. So Brand and Bond start to team up at this point, going off what Drax has said. They decided to pull resources and figure out, you know, what next steps to take. So what they decide to do, they go for a stroll along the coast. As they do, an assassination attempt is made by an avalanche caused by an explosion from somebody. Fortunately, they do both survive. So, going off that concludes looking at my next set of notes. What takes place over Tuesday and Wednesday in the book. So here, then, when the next chapter starts on the Thursday morning, turns out, and I'd heard this before actually, that Bond is a huge Formula One fan. So I am surprised nothing like that's been used yet in the movies. Maybe Amazon may change that. Could certainly be a new take, especially if they're going for a younger beginning, if you like, to the Bond character for Amazon. So maybe like a Formula One kind of sequence. But eventually, as all these things are being learned and swapped, Brand actually discovers what Drax's plan is. She discovers a black notebook, and basically it's the build up to a test of firing of the rocket, and it's due to land somewhere in the North Sea, a designated point in the North Sea. Going on the gyro readings that Brand discovered in this diary, it turns out that these targets, because it's all weather dependent and weather variances in terms of conditions, to gather the range and so on, the target turns out actually to be London. So this is all fed back to Scotland Yard, Special Branch, MI5, and the contact there is a chap called Valance, who Bond really kind of takes to and knows that he can be trusted and that he can rely on his help for any support needed, because he realises as things are starting to progress that Brand has suddenly gone missing and he has no idea where she is. He does eventually realise where she is, but Drax goes to escape and does so in his Mercedes, his white Mercedes. So Bond pursues him in his Bentley, and crikey, this is hard work this morning. And because I've written this a while ago, so I've not had a chance to record. But anyway, I'm not making any excuses. Amongst this chase, the guy Krebs, who Drax said is the mole, was aiding him, and he was in a truck who was part of a convoy. That's right. And he tries to, as they go around a blind corner almost, because they know they're being pursued, he cuts the ropes and releases bales of, huge like bales of paper that come crashing off the truck that he's in an attempt to kill Bond. And basically it essentially works. Bond can't avoid it. He comes careering off the road. They suddenly then both have basically an unconscious Bond and also Gala Brand, who they restrain them both. And whilst they are restrained, Drax feels confident to basically reveal his life story, and that he's actually in the past worked for the German SS. And I was kind of thinking, wow, okay, wasn't expecting that. I was thinking more the Russians as opposed to ex-German military. So, to cut a long story short, Bond, whilst all this is going on, Bond and Brand, they're kind of, it's a bit like, they get to back to the missile, they're taking them back to the missile base, silo, whatever you wish to call it, and they put them, a bit like Moonraker, in the launch pit where they are going to be incinerated essentially. And because Brand knows the sort of daily setup, because she's the one taking all the weather reports for the systems, and then he takes it over, does Drax. She's never allowed to put the information into the computer and so on. Bond and so they're left in there, but basically, without giving too much away, Bond and Brand make their escape, and they go to look, because Drax thinks that's it, they're done. They make their escape and look to sabotage the planned flight plan for Moonraker, and as they do so, the room where the gyros are all set and so on is left not abandoned, but they assumed secure, with no issues. So as Bond goes searching, Brand adjusts the target settings, the gyro settings. So instead of it going to London as Drax has set it up for, she has reprogrammed it to go to the original target plan. And at this point there's the world's press, British press watching this test launch, and Drax is witnessed going down to the quay onto a little mini yacht, and all of a sudden as it's going out to sea, this submarine appears, and like everybody's like, wow, that's impressive, what's this submarine, didn't know it got one kind of thing. And he gets on board. As the rocket takes off, Brand and Bond, because of the huge blast that's going to cause, dive into a shower room with a shower on to protect them, and they just sort of take cover whilst it's launched. And the clever thing is, I didn't see this coming, because it's the projected route of the missile. It turns out it's the projected route of the submarine, to a point where they'll be able to witness the destruction from a distance, of course. But this missile comes down straight on top of the sub, killing Drax and his crew, and to the point where it causes a huge tidal wave. And the onset of that is there was over 200 plus dead, numerous Navy ships lost. It was that big a wave, it caused major flood defences failing in Holland, and they were waiting to hear what damage was caused in France and Belgium. Obviously, huge, negative really outcome, because you sort of, with the exception of on Her Majesty's, it's usually like a uplifting, fist pumping kind of finish to a movie. But this, quite dark, I thought. So you kind of, a day or two later, in M's office there's a phone chat with the PM. Not too sure where Bond is at this point. So the PM's obviously happy, but has also told M that the palace wants to give James Bond some recognition for his professionalism. But M points out that it's not allowed for MI6, but Bond probably wouldn't want it anyway. And I thought, well, where does this leave Brand and Bond? Are they going to end up together? And in a nice kind of twist, they don't. It turns out that Brand is happily kind of engaged to somebody, and they're going to be marrying. Not really any reference to who this person is, and Bond is granted a month's leave, and on that note they just simply part ways, and that is the end of the story. Sorry I was a bit slow this morning on this one. It's because it's been a number of weeks since I read the book, so I was just I should have refreshed my head in my notes before I recorded, but this is just me being me, but yeah, what a difference the book is to the movie. I'm really pleased, bearing in mind it takes place over 3 days just in London and on the south coast. Very gripping, very enthralling, and I've seen numerous people, I think I said this maybe on the last book review, they wouldn't mind seeing, if if Amazon are going to branch out, which they will, into different things, if they remade the movies as books and followed them, excuse me, to the letter, whether it's a movie or a 6-part series per book, going on what I've read so far, I'd actually be okay with that, but just use the same actor but a different actor for the stories. Because like I've said, some things work better in the books than the movies, like in the last review, when I spoke about the death of Dr. Kananga. Not Dr. Kananga, Mr. Big. Yeah, I can see that working, but let me know your thoughts. You know, are you reading the books? I'm 3 in now, if you believe when this was recorded. I'm actually more than that, but yeah, I'm 3 in. Thoroughly enjoying them, and yeah, I will leave you to the rest of your Sunday. So, as always, leave a like, a follow, a share, a comment, a subscribe, word of mouth. And ladies and gentlemen, lots of love to you all, and I will see you next weekend. See you later. Oh, goodness me, I was trying to be really clever and sneak it underneath. Didn't work, so see you next weekend, guys. Take care all. Hello again. There was one thing I forgot to do, which was, I don't know if anyone's finding this useful or not, but the ISBN, just in case you're using the exact same books. And if, there we go, like the others, £9.99. There's your ISBN number. Hope you find that useful. I'll try not to forget to do that in the next one. So, yes. Thanks once again, guys. It's like a post-credit extra, but without the credits. So, see you next weekend, folks. All the best now. Bye-bye.